And this weekend saw the conclusion of the English Premier League season. Congratulations once again to Man City. It's OK, there is always next year. But on a serious note, while many people enjoy a little flutter on sport, gambling can also lead to addiction, depression and in some cases even suicide. Yes, new tougher rules are due to come into force later this year to ban celebrities, sports stars and social media influencers from advertising gambling sites, because for many it's the combination of sport and betting ads that can lead to devastating problems that ruin lives and families.
I lost friendships, I lost jobs, I lost my career, I lost hope, I lost who I was.
Across the UK, it's estimated that just over 3.6% of the population are experiencing some negative consequences due to their gambling. In England, that's about 1.8 million people. Just under 250,000 of them are defined as problem gamblers, some with gambling addictions. James Grimes was one of them. He started gambling illegally in betting shops at the age of 16.
It was football that I started betting on, small £5 bets. I thought that this was just a risk-free activity, but very quickly I started to get attracted by the machines in there. Things escalated quite quickly. It destroyed my ambition, my career prospects. All I wanted to do was get that next bet on.
By the time James had turned the legal age of 18, he was betting on pretty much every sport possible.
I went to university, I got my student loan and grant, and I'd lost it all within 3 or 4 days on gambling sites. My dad got really ill and he passed away quite young, and that was definitely a trigger for my gambling to just escalate to a whole different level. And during this time, I was on a VIP scheme with a gambling company. They were sending me to a VIP Premier League box. They were giving me tickets to the races. So even if I wanted to stop, the gambling companies wouldn't have let me.
Over the next 12 years, James gambled away £100,000, and football was at the centre of it.
Football is a huge part of my life, always has been. I trusted it, and gambling was completely normalised, glamorised. Football promoted it to me, and the products themselves are addictive. It's just everywhere. I think a Premier League match last year, there was an estimated 700 gambling adverts in one game.
Many gambling adverts will also carry a message about responsible gambling with them. But when every single Premier League club had some kind of partnership with a betting company in the season just gone, and 9 of the 20 clubs had a gambling company as their front of shirt sponsor, it can feel like gambling is hard to get away from. The English Football League is even sponsored by a betting brand.
If you see the word bet every single time you watch football for 5 years of your life, by the time you are old enough to gamble, you think that it's just a thing that we should all do when we're 18. Every single advert is a threat to my recovery. We're talking about relapse, addiction and suicide.
While those risks are a serious worry for James, for Peter and Sadie from Enniskillen, they're a painful reality.
We didn't know that gambling could kill, but we know now.
Their son Lewis took his own life, aged 34.
We got the phone call to say that Lewis was dead on the 1st of November 2013. It will live with us forever.
We only found out that he had a gambling addiction when we read his suicide note.
Gambling addicts are 3 times more likely to die by suicide than people with other forms of addiction.
There's days that he would have gambled one after the other, maybe 2, 4, 6, 800 pounds in a day.
We knew he liked to bet on football. As far as we were aware, he didn't gamble on horses, and we never saw him in casinos. The problem for Lewis is when he went home, he went onto his phone and he sat and he gambled, and that's where his life started to ebb away from him. His shame, I think, in the end killed him, because he just couldn't bring himself to tell people that he needed help, and he needed it so badly.
It's thought that less than 3% of problem gamblers are receiving treatment. Thankfully, James is one of those getting help. Not only has he been in recovery for 4 years, he's also founded the Big Step campaign. He believes the current level of gambling adverts in football is dangerous.
So our campaign is focused on ending gambling advertising and sponsorship in football through government. So we do lots of campaigning activities. I had the idea of walking to football clubs that have gambling-based shirt sponsorship. We've managed to get 25 clubs that now back our campaign.
One of the first clubs to join James's campaign was League Two's Tranmere Rovers. But Chairman Mark Palios has found it a challenge to get free of gambling adverts.
We play in the Sky Bet League. We can't avoid that. We have to play in the league. And the league actually has sold the rights to Sky Bet. In respect of all of the rest of the inventory that we have to sell, the stands, the front of shirt, we don't have any gambling sponsors. The reality is, you can replace gambling. One of the major pieces of sponsorship is the front of shirt. That only represents 10% of our playing budget. So it can be replaced, despite what people say. I'm not against gambling, I'm just against problem gambling. And I think the combination of gambling, advertising and football is dangerous because we have the demographic that can get hurt by it.
New rules are due to come in later this year that will ban footballers, celebrities and social media influencers from being used in gambling adverts. But James and Mark want a total ban. They've recently met with the Minister for Gambling, Chris Philp, in a final attempt to lobby government to get them to stop gambling advertising at football games altogether. James is still keen for fans to get involved in the issue as well.
They might not listen to campaigners like me, but they will listen to football fans.
Gambling is of course perfectly legal if you're over 18, and placing bets doesn't always lead to addiction. But Peter and Sadie want everyone to be aware of the risks.
We worked out in the end when Lewis had died that he had lost about £55,000. Now, that's not the reason Lewis took his life. What happened with Lewis is that he couldn't get out of the cycle of addiction. He was smart enough to know that gambling addicts don't win, and the sooner our government realised that they need to do something, the better.
Our thoughts with Peter and Sadie there, and if you want to find out more about how you can be helped with gambling, the Action Line website is linked to our website there, so if you want more information you can go to the Morning Live website.